Come on, Des. Come on, Des.
Come on, Des, you got it.
Here he goes.
Hello, people. It's Mr. Do Daily back again. The latest review show on the Forest Hudderfield game. I'm actually standing in for Midfield. His duty calls today. He's busy at work, but he wanted to do a review show, so I'm honoured to fill his legendary status and bring you the latest thoughts on Forest final game of 2021. Got some of the usual guys with us. Matthew, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Des. It's too early, isn't it? It's like match of the day too. The one that no one watches, but
some tired this morning. A few people in already, so we've got Lee. How are you this morning?
Yeah, I'm not too bad.
And Mr. Megaphone.
It's all right, it's my dog. Hang on, I'll go in a different room.
I tend to have this effect on dogs. Weren't there that one in South America barking at me?
Right, sorry, carry on. Morning, how are you?
I'm all right. You're all looking a bit tired this morning. A bit of an hangover from the busy Christmas schedule.
Very tired.
So like I say, doors away. We're going to keep to the usual kind of format. I'm going to try and copy him. But I was just saying to Matt, this is what Door looks like at 10 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, a hard day at work takes its toll on him. So with that, his enthusiasm and charisma, we'll give it a good go. So looking at last night's game, starting with you, Matt, what were your thoughts?
well, it was one of those sort of could have gone either way games at the beginning. I felt like it was sort of could have pivoted either way, and it was 50-50. Obviously, they scored a kind of soft goal out of nothing. The midfield both kind of let us down a little bit. I felt, first of all, Jada, they went past him, and then old Garner didn't really track the run at all, and it was a bit easy. And you could criticise Sambo, I guess, a bit on the near post. But anyway, they got the soft goal, and after that, we bombed them, didn't we? Really, and we just couldn't get anything into the back of the net. Although I thought we scored a couple of times virtually, but the old ref's watch didn't go off, so it wasn't to be. But yeah, just one of those nights, really. I think you have to have a long memory to remember a time when we had so many chances and couldn't put one of them in the back of the net. So, it happens. It's a shame it's on the back of the other one, but got to win the next game now and get the points back on the board.
Yeah, I was looking at the stats before we came on. 23 shots. How many games under Chris Hughton would that have taken? And we got all them chances. Some of them was a bit easier than others. Some of them were kind of carved out. So, Kieran, what were your thoughts on all those chances and the game itself?
Well, it was just poor finish, wasn't it? I think we are lacking attackers in this team. I think it's a lot of pressure on Johnson. I thought he was bang average last night. And I thought Silva did okay. I think we had a lot of chances to actually get a draw. I think we deserved a draw. But it's just one of them days it didn't really go our way. I thought Garner ran his socks off. He ran that midfield. Felt sorry for Jade. I think he kind of was in fault of the first goal, got pushed off the ball, and then Spence got caught out again. But yeah, we need attackers, and we'll see what happens in the next game. Hopefully 3 points.
Lee, what were your thoughts?
Well, up until the goal, I thought it was fairly balanced. It was to and froing them as bit of a soft goal at the near post. Shouldn't get beaten at the near post like that. It was a bit soft, but after that we literally dominated and took control. But again, lack of finishing. It's just 23 shots, but only 6 on target. Tells you a bit of a story, doesn't it? Really, we are definitely struggling up front.
Absolutely, and when you look at the actual keeper saves as well, that's like 1 or 2. In the stats I've read, I'm sure I could remember a few more, but the stats say there was 1 keeper save, which was really interesting considering how much we dominated the ball, wasn't it? In a lot of games under Cooper so far, we've not dominated. I think back to the Swansea game, of course, when we're 25% possession and won 4-1. It was just interesting when the boot's on the other foot and probably the onus is with us. There's still that niggling bit of confidence with the forward players, about putting it away. And that kind of brings me on. There's a comment here straight away from Long-Ear Jetty. Had plenty of chances, need a finisher, and Silva maybe should have stayed on. The striking sort of, the most notable thing when the team news came out was that Silva was playing. Of course, he got a bit of a run out of Middlesbrough on Boxing Day. I know you were there, Lee. What did you think of Silva? I've got my own opinions, which we'll come back to, but what did you think of his full debut?
I think he played all right. Not too bad. I'd have liked to have seen him utilise his pace a bit more. Like, it was a bit tentative when it came to try and actually knock the ball past and run past the player. Like, for me, he's got sort of the pace and everything there. He's like missing a trick or two. I don't know if that'll come with confidence. He didn't play bad. He played pretty well. He's got something. I think he's someone with, I don't know, a bit more game time and get used to being in the first team that we could utilise. I think his slight step up on Mighton, because he seems to have a little bit more about him than Mighton, and that's nothing against Mighton. He's got to develop like an end product Mighton has. But Silva, I think, give him time, he might have something.
Yeah, I actually thought with Silva, I thought he did well to get into some good positions. He's got more pace, and his final ball wasn't too bad, apart from the fact he just delayed it that little bit, perhaps a little bit of match sharpness. He just, when he needed to put it in the box a bit early, when he needed to get his shot away, he just struggled a little bit. Just talking on team changes, Matt, your man, Mr. Yates.
My second. Yeah, no, we missed him, didn't we? Personally, I was the most concerned about the midfield, and I thought the midfield was just too light. They're just not the right kind of players. There's a world of difference between those two and Yates and Colback, and I think old Coops has got his resources stretched as thin as they can possibly go. And I don't know. In hindsight, I think it's a mistake not having Colback in the midfield, because even the couple of occasions he stepped in from the wing and played the ball in, we looked so much more kind of dangerous immediately. I'd have preferred if we'd just gone with Bong and just bitten the blinking bullet. We're paying him for as much money as just about anyone else in the squad, and he isn't even good enough to be in the team. He's got to be. He's got to be. We're losing so much, I think, in the midfield.
Do we know why Yates didn't play?
It must be COVID, I think. I'd heard stories about him and then one or two other players testing positive.
After the Borough game, I heard.
Well, I heard he was going to miss the previous game, actually. But, so I don't know. Him and Figs, obviously. Figs was nowhere, and the bench looked funny, didn't it? It didn't, if one of our centre-halves had got injured, we'd have had a very interesting evening. So, it was a bit of a surprise to see both those totally absent from the squad. It was nice to see Tyrese getting a look in.
Yeah.
And actually, I felt like he should have played. It would have been a call, because you're leaving a guy out you bought for 2 or 3 million on a 5-year contract, or you're leaving out Garner. But for me, he's the right kind of player, and he would have anchored the midfield much better. But it's tricky. It's tricky, isn't it? It's that's what the manager gets paid for.
You put Bong on, it's like playing with 10 men, isn't it? Des knows that. That's the problem. It's like you're at a disadvantage from the start. No disrespect, he's had his time, Bong. I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, but you lose your midfield though. It's a trade-off, isn't it?
I think I'd rather call back at left back than Bong.
He does all right at left back.
Personally, my opinions on Bong if you watch DoreOnTour regular.
There's a video somewhere about that, Des.
And a whole hour. No, but to be honest, I would have had Colback. I don't like him at left back, but just because of the bare bones. And I've said a lot recently that beyond that first 11, it's a real struggle. And Kieran, you mentioned there, just mentioned this comment from the True Red. Honestly, didn't deserve to lose that. We absolutely bombed Huddersfield second half. Need a creative midfielder and a striker to support Grab, and Lyle Taylor isn't good enough. Kieran, Lyle Taylor came on again. What was your thoughts?
Well, I am a Taylor fan, but it's just not working. like every time he comes on, he always seems to worry about the man instead of playing football. He's always looking for a foul. He needs to be on it, but it's just not working. We definitely need a striker. We'll see what this Keane Davis will be like if he comes in. But yeah, we're lacking up front at the minute. I think when Graben's not at his best, he's very ineffective. And he has been for a few games now.
We'll talk about signings a bit later, of course. The January window's looming and there's players coming and going. If anybody's got any comments, please add them in. Any thoughts on the game? Everybody's saying we absolutely battered them, it seems, and that we should have won. And everybody's woke up with the same opinion, even though there's some tired faces on here. You know, we're all singing from the same sheet, and that's good to see, because it's not always the case with Forest, is it? What I will say, if anybody wants to subscribe, Dore's trying to get up to 6,000. Hopefully, I don't lose him any today. So
by the end of today, you want 6,000.
He'll probably be back down to looking
you
for
could get more on Do Daily.
Yeah, and of course, do subscribe to Do Daily. Well said, Kieran. I'm only 14 away from 200, so we'll plug the other guys later. So sort of looking at the Christmas period, of course, we went into it full of optimism, really sort of, if we could get a result at Middlesbrough, we've got two winnable home games, you know. How are you feeling about sort of everything right now, Matt, going into the new year? What's you thinking? And I know you're a massive fan of Cooper, but what's next?
You've just got to keep calm and carry on, haven't you? We're doing everything right. Cooper's doing everything right. He's just the miracle was a little bit harder the last couple of games. Another time we'd have got a couple of points quite comfortably. Maybe 3 out of those last 2 games. It just hasn't happened. That's football. You know, you don't win when you deserve to, and you sometimes lose when you should win. Last night, I think the thing that was frustrating was we missed all our chances, didn't we? Going back to the number of saves, I thought the goalkeeper made an amazing save in the first half, which I'd like. Got to go and watch on the TV and see it was as good as it looked when you were there. But Graben got nothing, did he? He had, like, I think, one chance where he basically just had to have a go from on his right foot, I think it was. The chances, a lot of them fell to Brennan, and we just snatched at all of them, and Zink and a few other people, they just snatched at them. So we messed it up, and our strikers just aren't quite there at the moment. There's none of them, I don't think, at the front end of the pitch that are playing as well as they can at the moment. And it's just unfortunate. You know, we could have got away with it if a couple of them were on form, and they just haven't been, and we just need a little bit of something happening in the final third. But I'm sure Cooper's got it kind of under control. I've got no sort of long-term concerns in that respect. And you do lose a couple of games. You know, this is what happens. It's nice to get upset when you lose a couple of games and you won so many and you've been top of the form league. You know, let's carry on like that. I can handle that.
I think personally, you know, and I don't want to be negative because I'm really positive in terms of I don't expect this, but is there a little bit of a confidence issue when they don't quite get the result? Because last time we got beat, it took us a while to sort of start winning again, you know, and I just think, are they still worried about where they was? They've come so far. They should be confident. They should be sort of be prepared to go back out there and put the last game behind them. And last night's performance showed that, don't get me wrong, but it's just that cutting edge and perhaps in front of goal when it matters. Have they got that confidence to sort of put it all behind them, Kieran? What do you think about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're getting there. We are still a long way, but we are improving. We're seeing improvements every single week, but yeah, we'll get there.
I think they overthink it attacking. Myself, like Spence, when he just goes for it, he walks past the guy every time. But then on other occasions, he goes up to him, he stops, he kind of beats him, he stops again, he beats him again, he stops again. And we never create anything when we attack slowly. You know, we're so much more effective when it's a Hader or it's a Silva breaking through the middle. And I just think it is confidence. I think when we start scoring goals, and a few of those guys, the Grabens, Graben's a confidence guy. He'd got, like I say, he didn't really get a touch last night. But when he gets touched, starts scoring goals, even penalties can go in off his arse, whatever. I think the whole thing will kind of change and you'll get the momentum. And again, I think it partly goes back to having the strong midfield. If you haven't got enough kind of impetus, it's like a kettle that won't quite boil. And so I think it's kind of confidence, but we need to just get the ball rolling, and then it gets some momentum, and then it will become easier. And I honestly don't think we really have. We've had a couple of games we've scored 3 and 4 goals, but we haven't really clicked, have we? Many occasions. And a lot of these players have missed more chances, you know, on the balance sheet. They're in deficit sort of thing. They should have scored a few more than they actually have, but probably all of them.
For me, Matt, sorry, that's what I was going to say. What's more worrying for me is we're getting to goal. We're running out of ideas. Then from 6 yards, we're blazing over the ball. We can't even hit the target. Only 6 of the 23 shots was on target. Now that, for me, tells a tale. That's where the problem lies. I don't know how from 6 yards you can't even at least test the keeper. You know what I mean? And that for me, that's the problem. You know, sorry, Des.
It's all right. Owen says, I don't mind losing if we give it a go like last night.
Exactly.
We're all in agreement with that. But what I wanted to come back to, Lee, Matt made the point there about the kettle boiling and the slow build-up. And it made me think of your man who came on off the bench, Mr. Carvalho.
I thought he played well last night. I thought he did well. I
totally agree. I think it was the kind of game he came into it at the right pace. Do you know, I'm not a fan. I'm sort of move on from that now. But what I want to see from Carvalho is coming into a game like that, starting a game like that. If it burns out 50
I agree.
minutes, do you know, he seemed to get on the ball on the edge of the box, and that's where he does his business. And why are we not seeing that enough? Do you know, what is happening with Carvalho? Why doesn't he? He's had a couple of games, you know, and yes, he has to come into games at the wrong time. You know, and this game we was forward thinking anyway, so it worked. But why can't we have him from the start?
Why can't he do that from the start? I know that's my frustration as well. Like, he's clearly got the talent. I mean, last night he played some balls that we've not seen anyone play for a while that actually put the keeper under pressure as soon as he curled him in. He played really well last night. He even tackled back and won the ball back. So, you know, it's not a lack of enthusiasm or ambition, or that he doesn't want to do it or do the donkey work, because just lately that's all he has been doing. But last night we saw where his potential is, that he is that guy who can play those balls over. Even Zink weren't playing those balls over last night. He played well, Zink did, but Carvalho seems to offer that vision that we seem to lack, even in that little time he was on last night.
As says there that the decision making in the final third, I guess that says, especially when we were on the break, was woeful for the majority of last night. Again, it kind of was. It goes back to what I said about Silva, and then when Carvalho, the difference in kind of moving the ball around. What I want to do, something a little bit different. Like every sort of managerial change, they tend to bring their own man in from time to time. So this guy's my Alan Tate to Steve Cooper. Bring Ian in.
Good afternoon. Good morning.
You all right? What did you think of the game last night?
Frustrating. Very frustrating. Deserved a point at least, but move on to Barnsley game.
So, what do you think about the Christmas period? Do you think we're going to come back?
Yeah, I think so. Like you've all been saying, it all depends on what we get in the transfer window this week, and hopefully this new striker we get from Villa can do the bit of business as well. So, yeah, I think we should bounce back easily.
Right, we've got some guys in. I'm quite pleased with the numbers considering doors away. Comments coming, lots of people sort of making comments. I'll share as many as I can. Like I say, do subscribe to the channel. If you've got any questions for the guys, please pop them in too. So Ian touched on there, Matt, the transfer window. First of all, we'll look at the obvious ones who might go out. Last night could have been the last game for a couple. And whilst they didn't sort of stick around too long at the final whistle, I saw a few tweets. I heard people saying that it was interesting that Spence and Garner was on the pitch for quite a long time. What do you think is going to happen with them? What do you think's the next move for those two? And you think we're going to keep hold of them?
I think probably we'll keep more of them than we expect. People always make all these noises, Middlesbrough. Obviously, we like Spence. They didn't like him so much. They've got other players. They're going to make noises. I'm not sure. I think hasn't he got a year this year and next season on a contract with them? But so they're not stupid. You're going to make the right noises to get the best out of the situation. We need to secure the fullbacks are vital to our football, and we're missing we're missing one for both of them in the last couple of games. So we need to sort that out one way or another, whether we're keeping the ones we've currently got somehow, or whether we've got to get some new ones. But we've got to resolve that. Striker, obviously, that's the $1 million thing always, isn't it? We've got too many players getting too much wages, so we it ties our hands a little bit. The likes of Jenkinson, remember him, and obviously Bong, who obviously isn't good enough to get a game, and you've got a bunch of others. We don't need to mention them. And we've signed a few people on loan that we see no reason why we signed them. They can't even get into the squad. So, yeah, I don't know. We've obviously got to keep what we've got. My personal opinion is, with transfers, is less is more, and you should just buy. The fewer players you need to buy, the better position you're in. And if we're top of the league on form and we're doing well, what we've actually got isn't bad when we can get it on the pitch. And if we could add 1 or 2 at the most to that would be fine. And obviously you don't want to lose any of them, because that throws a cat amongst pigeons straight away, doesn't it? But if we can keep what we've got and add 1, I'd be happy.
So, Kieran, sort of mixing it up slightly from that question, you've mentioned Garner. You thought he was brilliant last night. He's come back into a much better form than he was in earlier in the season. I'm going to ask you, kind of put you on the spot a little bit. You've got the choice, Spence or Garner. Who do you keep?
I'd definitely say Spence. He's obviously made a massive difference this season. Obviously, defending is not great, but he gives you that attacking sense. Obviously, he wasn't great last night. I think he was kind of out of position. He's not really a fullback, is he? He's more of a wing-back, and he suits a back three. But I'll definitely keep Spence. But Garner's been superb since he's managed to get his chance, and he's took it. Since the West Brom game, he's been brilliant, and last night he was awesome. But yeah, I'd definitely say Spence.
Moving on to you, Lee, there's a comment here, and we kind of forget about him as a loan player. Zink needs to stop trying to go for the headlines shooting for stupid positions. You'd already mentioned it. What's your sort of mid-term report on Zink? Are you happy with him? Do you want him to carry it? Do you want him to stay on? Would you let him go back?
I'll keep him for the rest of the season, because he does give us some attacking threat. The thing about Zink is you don't know which player you're going to get. He's one of them where on his day, he's kind of one of those unplayable players, isn't he? If he turns up. Like the comment said, sometimes he'll shoot and he'll be on target all the time. Every shot he hits will be there or thereabouts, and every pass he does is perfect. Then other games, he's like totally off the boil. You know what I mean? So he's a bit of a hit and miss player, but he's got so much potential. Part of it is what you've got around you as well, whether you play well or not. So I'll keep him though, definitely.
My personal opinion with Zinkernagel, he reminds me of like a street footballer. Somebody who can beat everyone in the park, and then when it comes to the big performance, the big moment, just kind of like he's just a bit rushed. He's just a bit sort of just don't quite work. And this is probably why he isn't playing in the Premier League, to be honest.
Sometimes he tries too much, Des.
Yeah, if he stuck some of these sort of goals in and got a few more assists, he'd probably be a Premier League player and playing in Watford's first team. Ian, you mentioned the striker. There's been a couple linked. Of course, it's rumoured that we're about to sign Keenan Davis, which I'm particularly pleased with. I've out of all the ones mentioned, I've seen him more than the others, and he looks like somebody who could almost sort of bulldoze his way through teams when we need it. Grabban's been playing in different positions, hasn't he? Almost like a false nine or a winger at times. It's interesting. Out of Balogun, Davis, there's the lad at Norwich. Is there anyone who particularly takes your fancy?
One name keeps coming to my mind is Gale from Newcastle. he's just a goal scorer.
No.
I know not many people like him and that, but he's just a goal scorer.
Past it. It'll be.
I think we're about
right
5
back.
years too late on him.
Yeah.
I think he's had his day.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Gale he does feel like he will score goal, and I'm of the opinion of the guys. You know, it's probably a few years too late, and I've been worried about Forest going down the Ariata route. You know, and the knockout.
That's another one.
You know, and he might cost a lot of money. So I can see your point. You know, I definitely see the point because again, we're going for the untried. We're pinning our hopes on a Brewster, Ian Brewster at Swansea, aren't we? It's got to work almost, you know. And I can see where Ian's coming from on that point, sort of throwing that name in there. If there's any other strikers people want to mention, please drop it in the comments. There's also a lot of talk about shoring up defence. You know, Steve Cook has been a name mentioned from Bournemouth, which again goes against the grain of what we're supposed to be looking at. What rather than sort of dwell on Cook, because it looks like he's going to QPR anyway, it looks like they're looking for reinforcements at the back. Matt, why do you think we're looking at centre backs? Is it the end for Worrell? Is Figueiredo's contract coming down? Do you know what is the reason for this, in your opinion?
Well, they've packed Figs' bags a couple of occasions and sort of got him all ready to go, booked his taxi, which is kind of ridiculous to me. Is potentially he's not far behind the other two, and they're all very good. And we've got a kid who we're paying a lot of money, who's also very good. So if you're going to strengthen centre half, you're nuts, aren't you? Even if we sell Worrell, I don't think we need another centre half. We've even got Bubba Fernandes as well coming through, who's not a bad player. So it doesn't make any sense to me. It'll be a classic thing, you know, let's buy another right back whilst we're at it. Or another goalkeeper. You know, it's insanity. I'd like to see the kids given a chance. Less is more, and buy young players. No more of these old players. What's the point? You know, you're not going to get what you've seen previously. We've done it too many times. You know, you want the likes of Graben, where you're going to get 3 or 4 years out of him, and he's a decent player. But you don't want to buy Graben now. You want to buy him 5 years ago. Centre half is ridiculous. I don't know why we get another centre half. We won't see half of them ever play a game.
So, Kieran, do you think this is Worrell's moment? Do you think this is the time? He's been playing really well. I think he's really, really sort of flourished under Cooper, and he's added a different dynamic to his game. You know, long passing, carrying the ball forward. You know, calm under pressure. What do you reckon? Do you think we'll hold on to him this window?
I think we'll hold on to him this January, but if Forest don't go up, I think we're going to see him go. But hopefully, even if he does go, we need to get a lot of money for him. I think it's took him time to get used to the system under Cooper. I think the start off, if he wasn't playing particularly great, but he's managed to suit the style of play and he's actually improved his game going forward. And yeah, he's playing outstanding at the minute. I thought he was quite good last night. Let's hope we can keep him.
Lee, we touched on fullbacks, you know, my favourite subject, left back. What's the answer? What's going to happen in the window? Where are we going to be on January the 31st? Both sides. What do you reckon?
Well, I think we'll end up probably getting another loan, won't we? That's what I think. I think we'll send 2-2 back. I think they are going to be cancelling his loan because he's a great player, really good player, loads of potential, just made of glass, isn't he, unfortunately. I think his career will be like that all the way through. I hope not for him because he's a good player. But I think we do need, obviously Lowe's not far off coming back in, but I still think we need that extra cover just in case, because once we lose them wing backs, look what happened at Borough. It shows you we're just void of any sort of ideas once we lose that. It's like the balance goes in the system. So I do think we need maybe another loan and then in the summer readdress, see who we can ship out and see who we can bring in, you know.
And finally, Ian, just talking about players, it's not a lone player or anyone we're sort of considering losing, but as you as a goalkeeper, and he always divides opinion, the goalkeeper. There's been a few hairy moments in the last couple of games. What's your opinion on Samba?
To be quite honest, I was a bit worried about last night because he went off in when he's warm up. Now, whether or not that's had anything to do with his performance last night, but he's on his days a great keeper. Then he has his bad days. I don't know. I think, I like Samba, but he's just one of them keepers, isn't he? He's just on his days brilliant. Off days he's not so good.
Are we still lacking a little bit of cover? You know, the American guy's come in and he's not really been the answer, has he? He doesn't seem to be anywhere near the first team, and of course Smith's still lingering around. And you just wonder if again he just needs to. Earlier in the season, when the American guy came in and he was a bit of an unknown quantity, was he keeping him on his toes a little bit? And sometimes with Samba, you think, does he need that kind of that little bit of pressure and that behind him, or is he someone who you just get what you see? Matt,
we've not seen enough of that American though, Des. He's had a few games, he's made a mistake and lacked a bit of confidence, and that's probably what it is. He hasn't played a lot, has he?
Well, the thing is, in that game, me and Matt saw him in that game, and we saw a game at Alfreton where he come barging out his area after 10 minutes and took someone out and got a straight red.
No, that wasn't him. That's the other guy.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, no, that's the guy from Scotland. I think he's from Scotland, but he's good too.
What,
but they've got similar names. It's Nicky Hogarth, that one.
Oh, so,
okay. Don't blame him for that. That's a bit harsh.
Oh, I actually saw. I shouldn't really say this. I actually saw an ex-Forest player out and about, and I was talking about them. An ex-Forest player, not a current one. And they're talking about the goalkeeper, and his comment was just bloody goalkeepers. So I thought that was really interesting, but I'm not going to say who that was. Anyway, so
we don't need more goalkeepers, honestly.
No, we have a million
goalkeepers. Just because the American's a good player, he's a half decent player. He came in and he was a world beater. Samba was going to be out and all that stuff. Same as Addy, whatever he was 2 years ago or whenever we never saw put up from a sub once in the League Cup. Samba's a good goalkeeper.
Somebody
we
mentioned
more goals than anyone else, didn't we?
Stuart Pearce, goalkeeper, like it. Perhaps we could play some of them up front, like David James.
He's a good footballer as well, Samba. You can kick the ball.
I think Samba's dying to get up front on that pitch, isn't he?
He was up front yesterday when he was some pass.
I just want him to have a shot when the keeper's off the line. He's got the kick behind him.
Yeah.
So moving on, Cooper's talking about trying to get his business done early, which is always an encouraging sign. You know, it sounds like somebody with a plan who knows what they're doing. Obviously, Dave Murphy's come in. So we spoke about sort of the players still at the club, and we've touched on one or two. What I'm going to sort of do is do the rounds on who do you think, where do you think we could replace someone, and is there anybody sort of in your mind who could do a job at Forest, starting with you, Matt?
What, who we want to sign?
Yeah.
Well, main thing is keeping the fullbacks. I'll be spending my money on a young striker. You know, when you get the chance, you know, I wouldn't just be going out and buying the first person you can. You take your time, get the right one at the right time. As far as the wage bill goes, we've got to get rid of some of the players that never play, who are on big money. The likes of Arter, who you completely forget exists, who's probably on, more than Bong. You've got Arter, Bong, Jenkinson. You could pay a blinking Messi to play with the money you pay those three probably put together. Taylor, if you're going to bring in another striker, you can save some money there because he'll be on big bucks too. And I think he wants to leave, so I don't think we're going to. If anyone was interested in him, I think he'll be probably off next. We just got to rationalise the squad a little bit and spend our money wisely. We've definitely got to get good fullbacks one way or another. If we could keep the two we've got, that's brilliant because we've got two good ones. And we've got to find a young striker and add a few options. There's something going on with Lolly. You know, he's been finished or he's the saviour so many times. You know, he needs to be rehabilitated, whatever it is, whether it's physical, mental, whatever. We need a few more options. You know, everything's stretched a bit thin. And then what we want to do is get some of the kids into the squad and give them a chance because we're going to see good players come and go and never get a chance. You know, Forner, possibly some of those strikers around the fringes. Taylor, Swan, there's Larson. There's a lot of good little players down there. Even back, these guys should be the next ones off the taxi rank. You know, we need top class first choices and sort of apprentices behind them. So I think Coops knows what he's doing, but he's having to learn about these players a little bit late in the day. And, you know, we just don't know, do we? He might get his business done, and then it might be all these people get dragged out under his feet, and he might have to do a bit more business he wasn't expecting.
Yeah, interesting points. And Kieran, what I'm kind of looking for here is one player without getting a bit sort of carried away. I've seen names mentioned in the comments, you know, and like in the past, Doors mentioned Diaz coming back, and I've seen Suter mentioned, and they're probably a bit unrealistic because they're all going to the Premier League themselves. I'm just looking for that kind of little gem, you know, around the Championship, lower league maybe. Is there anyone that sort of springs to mind who you'd be keen on Forest taking a look at?
There's obviously a lot of talk on Buchanan, us going back in for him. I think we could go for him, really. I think we need that left-back competition with Lowe. I think hopefully he'll be back for Barnsley. I'm not sure on Keane Davis. I think there's a lot of 50-50. People are saying his finishing isn't great, but I'd like to see us go for Balogun. I think he's someone that would really suit Forest. Someone is like Brewster. I think that could make a difference for us. He could play on the left and he could play up front, but yeah, I think Balogun is someone we should be going for.
Interesting point. It's one I've not seen too much, so I'm really interested to find a few clips on him. I'll take a look at that. Somebody's just piping up here. I'm not sure who this guy is.
Oh, delete his comment.
Get back to work.
It's gibberish, isn't it?
He's finished that guy. He's finished more than Taylor.
Des, we should have a look at that. Is it Lewis Potter from Hull? He was brilliant down there.
Oh, yeah, the winger.
He'd be a fantastic shot, wouldn't
he? He was brilliant, and there was a lot of people in the ground sort of talking about him, wasn't there?
Yeah, he's young. Fits the bill.
The one thing with that, Lee, I totally agree with you in terms of ability. It's just that those positions we seem to have way too many, don't we? And again, it's just pinpointing it. Ian, is there anyone that sort of stands out for you?
I think the first bit of business I do is get Spence signed up.
Yeah.
January the 1st, put the bid in for me.
Is he out of contract this month? I swear he's out of contract.
What, at the end of this year, you reckon?
I think it's the end of the season,
in the summer, yeah.
Oh, if he is, then that's it. We've just got to keep hold of him and do what's right, haven't we? We want to pay. He wants to get a free. We could do a pre-contract if it is this season. Do a pre-contract, give him loads of money. Because some of these other people must be. Well, Jenks is out of contract this year. Give him his money. So there you go. You can have that easy.
So the popular opinion is that Door's getting sacked in the morning. What, for both jobs?
Do daily on tour.
Do on tour from now on. Get that guy. Anyway, yeah. Do you know? There's one player that I keep seeing, and he seems not obvious in a way because he's been on television and he's been highlighted. I've watched his program at Salford, and they've got a player called Asante Thomas. Do you know? But whenever I see clips of him, he looks a real decent player, and again, a young striker. Do you know? You wonder whether he's somebody who Forest could go with. Just throwing a kind of name in there. Lots of people might not have seen him, but when do we go to the lower leagues find that gem anymore? Do you know that Stan Collymore? Do you know that kind of player who we pull up through the ranks? Collymore was good. Obviously, he had a lot of interest, but there weren't too many clubs sniffing around him at Southend. His career had kind of gone up and down a bit, and I just look at players like that now and think, I understand there's a massive gulf between the Premier League and the Championship, and someone like Davis, his lack of finishing might be in the Premiership might be an absolute asset, you know, in the Championship because he might get 23 chances in a game like last night, you know, and that's the difference. I just think it should just be interesting to again for Forest to. I almost get the impression sometimes that we're a little bit arrogant in who we look for. You know, they've got to be a Forest player, or they've got to have had a reputation that means that they're going to fit in.
Well, look at Antonio, Britt. You said Collymore. When we've done it, it's worked out quite well, really, with the sort of unfancied lower league sort of players. Realistically, we're not going to sign a player where he's as good as a Brennan Johnson, he's as good as a Grabban, he's as good as a Lolly. You know, we're not going to sign those people unless it's an old has-been like Gale or someone like that. You know, we're better. Personally, I think we're better off trying to make the best of what we've got, and gamble a little bit, speculate on a few of these kids who have something a bit different. Personally, I think it's all about the team as the whole working. We've got players who are plenty good enough. It just isn't clicking for them at the moment, is it? There's none of those forward players who'd be pleased with their contribution this season so far, is there, really? You know, like we're saying on Zink, you know, it looks quite good. If you saw all his clips, it looked quite good, but there's not many goals there. There's not that many assists, really. You know, the sort of effort and sort of, you know, on the face of it, it's all flashy. It looks quite good, but the actual delivery, there hasn't been much at all. We're way below what we should be capable of. I think that's our problem in a nutshell.
Well, I think, Matt, I think the problem with Zinks and a little bit with Johnson when he's not on song. Don't get me wrong, I think he's the best player in the team.
Yeah, he's a good player. Yeah, it's not good.
But it's the same with the midfield, and I've got a bit of a bone to pick with you about this midfield in true Door fashion. But before I get onto that, I think the problem with these players, the reason they're Championship players is because they've not got that finished product. We've got some really nice, intelligent footballers, like I say, park footballers or speed merchants. And I come out of the game last night and I heard people behind me saying, Johnson needs a rest. I really don't believe that. You know, he's a young player who's going to find his clinical edge. He's going to get better. When you look at the Zinks, you know, and even in midfield, as much as I love Colback, I love Yates, we give the ball away a little bit too much. This is why they are Championship players at the end of the day. So what I'm almost saying when I'm talking about these lower league players, take a chance on a bit of raw talent. You know, if Brennan Johnson wasn't our player at Lincoln, everyone would have been shouting, get out there and sign Brennan Johnson. You know, and we never do that. I know, Matt, you have the same opinion of me. We've got too many players. You know, nobody who comes into the club, there's one player in particular, I'll mention him in a minute, but other than that, there's no player comes into the club who's better than who we've already got. You know, even the Lyle Taylors and Arthur, who's proven, we've got youth players better. You know, and we know the importance of Gary Brazil. We know the kind of job he does and how much money he makes for the club. But I think we need to remember that and look at that and look at how we could even buy players from lower league clubs and develop them within the under 23s. You know, and that's possibly where Dave Murphy's going ultimately. Of course, we've got to sort the first team out first, and I just hope the club would go down that route, because these foreign investments not really working, are they? You know, but what I want to move on to, and again, if anybody's got any questions, like I said, there's a few people putting in, is the player of the season so far. We're halfway through, you know, and I didn't mention one there, and I'm going to throw a name straight into the hat because everybody says he's not getting recognised. I think he absolutely is getting recognised every single week. Is McKenna? Yeah, McKenna is absolutely outstanding, and of course. I spoke about Worrell before and how potentially he might move on, and I know he's not captain Worrell, but he is almost the captain on the pitch. You'd almost assume that that McKenna will take up that role if he does move on, but he's been absolutely out of this world. You know, the way he was intercepting, sort of, because we was pushing on late yesterday, you know, and we was leaving a man short at the back and that kind of thing. The way he was getting his body across things, getting his foot in at the last minute, it was just...
Well, Hayder played him that ball, didn't he? Hayder played him that 49-51 ball just to say, go on, have a go at that. He did that massive sliding tackle in the second half. But you know, got the whole crowd going. It was brilliant. It was like, you know, a proper old-fashioned tackle. So
starting with you, Ian, mid-season, who's been your half player of the season?
I'm probably like you, Dave. I think McKenna. He's just been outstanding every week. It's I say last night it was proof of the pudding. That tackle he made in the 50 or 49-51 ball, and even when he was pushing up the left wing, it was just brilliant last night. And he's been, like I say, I think he's probably been the most solid player we've got all season.
Yeah, that's two for McKenna. Lee?
Yeah, pretty much the same, Mr. Consistency, isn't it? It's very rarely that he puts a foot wrong, Yeah. Can't argue with it. Him or Spence, you can't really argue with.
I'd say McKenna or probably Yates. Since Cooper's coming, I think Yates has been superb, but I think the only game that McKenna didn't really have a great game was probably the Fulham game where he gave away that second goal, and that's it, really. I think McKenna's been up there.
And Matt?
Yeah, well, McKenna's brilliant. Obviously, Walls had a very good season and playing a different style of football. Both of them together, they need each other. They've done fantastically, and the same with the midfield. Yates deserves a massive plaudits. He's a completely different player under Cooper, and I'll give it to Colback. I'll give it Colback before the season started. But he shouldn't be playing left back. If old McKenna was stuck on the left wing, he wouldn't be able to put in the performances he can, and so he's sacrificing himself for the team, and it's a shame. Because he's played 5 or 6 games now at position, but yeah. So I'd give it to Yates basically for saying McKenna. He doesn't need any trophies. He's not that kind of player. But I'd give it to Yates because I think he deserves it this year.
So we can finally dispel this myth that nobody's recognising what McKenna does.
Yeah, no, he's good.
That's all. It's almost like everybody hates Ryan Yates. I know there was a bit of an army against him, but not everybody always hated Ryan Yates. But of course, as Forest fans, we get a bit carried away with ourselves. So,
but the truth is, Yates wasn't very good for 30 games, but also 40 games, he was fairly awful and shouldn't have got picked. Having said that, in hindsight, the rest of the team was pretty awful, which made it more difficult for him. So, let's not rewrite history. He's been very good recently, and he wasn't at all very good for the previous 40 games. And people seem to say, "Oh, where are you now? Why are you not saying?" It's because he's playing well now. You go back and watch the videos. It's not the same guy. He's not doing the things then that he's doing now. And that's the brilliant thing about football. They can change. It was the same with Watson. He had a terrible season. He was awful. The next season, he was virtually player of the season. So I don't know why people have these agendas where they try and rewrite the past based on what they do now. Sure, potential things can change. But it has changed. It's not the same.
That brings me to my point, my bone to pick. Kafú.
Yeah.
You and Lee was both absolutely tearing him to shreds after the Middlesbrough game. And I'm going to say my piece on Kafú. I think Kafú is a horse for a course. When Forest are winning, he's a good, solid substitution. I don't think he's a great player. At night, he's not going to come on and do a job. I think he's going to out of the midfielders. And again, I like Yates. Colback's always been the one I want in centre mid, but he keeps the ball better than those two. If you watch him, it doesn't affect the game too much, but he keeps the ball. He moves the ball better than they do. They give the ball away a little bit too much, and I think Cooper was fully vindicated in the Swansea game. Even take the goal out and the Peterborough game before that, when we were winning the game, to bring him on, because I think if you actually watch him, yes, in terms of goal impact, he's played in far too many positions across the midfield. He almost plays a false number 10, as if that's even a position, because you don't know where he plays within the lines. But I think when you're taking an attacking player off, I think he's a great choice if you are trying to sort of manage the game out, to just keep that ball. And he does that pirouette thing where he shrugs them off and he wins free kicks. You look at Taylor, come on. Taylor tried to win a free kick, probably a world record for jumping on the floor yesterday. So that's my point on Kafú.
Our strikers never get free kicks, do they? Any of them. Grabban and Taylor spend all day trying to get free kicks and they never get any.
Kafú's a willing runner, and like you say, he wins free kicks. For me, I wouldn't say he sprays the ball around. I wouldn't even say he holds it up in a fashion. He just
He
literally
lost it a few times last night. If last night was if it was
He's a
CB,
winning runner.
I wouldn't. I'd be
I
putting
wouldn't
that
say he
back
sprays
over
the
to
ball
CB.
around. I wouldn't say he sprays it around. He just passes it simple. And when you're trying to manage a game for 10, 15 minutes, I quite like the fact he brings him on.
I would rather see Forner come on.
Can he play football like a Forner? You know, give Forner one game. He's probably passed the ball more effectively.
I would definitely have Forner in there instead of Ojeda. I think Ojeda.
Forner.
Is
he a Jacob? Is he as good as a Jacob? Is he as good as a Adlen Guedioura? No, he isn't. He's not in their class. He's not. And to be fair to him, like you say, sometimes he's playing as a weird number 10, and you know it's not really his position. He's an established, seasoned pro. Sure, he can come on and he's going to not do anything crazy, stupid. But he's really a holding midfielder, and he's all right. But he's not the future. He's not the answer to any question that we should be asking.
He's almost
to balance the opinion, as I generally agree regarding Kafú, but last night was poor under pressure, and that's the point I'm making. Last night is not the game, but for me, like I've always said, beyond that first 11, we really saw. Yesterday, it was noticeable. Each sub, apart from Carvalho, to some extent, each sub kind of weakened the team considerably. And I can understand players getting tired. There's been a lot of games, but again, we just need to get this strong 16 sorted. I think we've said it all the way through. We don't want too many. We want to let people go, certain players, and that sort of coming towards the end of what we're speaking about today. I want to move it forward to the next game. Of course, we've got Barnsley on Monday. I think is it Monday? Does anyone know?
Monday,
yeah. I forgot it's even New Year's Eve.
No,
Dore wanted to do this at 9 o'clock tonight. No chance. But anyway, so the Barnsley game on Monday. We'll start with you, Lee. What do you reckon? What do you think we're going to come back strong? Barnsley are quite poor, to be honest.
I think we have to take advantage of where they are. I know you can't always judge where someone is in the table, but they are poor. We didn't play bad last night. In fact, we played really well last night. It's just converting those chances, isn't it? I think Barnsley is a perfect opportunity to sort of right any mistakes we've made over the last 2 games, personally. I think 3 points is a must for me.
Do you think we're going to get them?
Yeah, I think we'll beat them.
One decent Wilkinson's come in. It says Matt hasn't even woke up properly yet.
Yeah, well.
It looks the same to me. At least he's paid his bill this time.
Yeah. Keaton's finally packed his bags and can left down the end of the street.
Ian, what do you reckon? Next game, Barnsley?
I think if we get a couple of the players back from injury, slightly low and whatever, I think we should bounce back quite easily. Just need to take chances like we've been missing the last couple of games. That's the biggest problem, isn't it? But I think we should bounce back easily.
Before I go to the other guys, me personally and the Barnsley game, if we play anything like we have done yesterday and even second half against Middlesbrough, those teams, for the position they're in, Huddersfield looked at 6 and 7s, at the back. As soon as we put them under pressure, it was all over. And if you look at Barnsley and the fact that Derby are now catching them, bizarrely, and the amount of points they've accumulated, this should be the perfect game, and I can see almost, I think, who was it? Was it David Platt who used to say we're going to go out and pummel somebody before long, after accepting his point per game. So I can see it almost getting back to that. What do you reckon, Kieran? Do you think we're going to sort of?
I think we'll win. I think play like that more, we'll win games. It's just having that final ball and finishing the chances. We hope to see Keane Davis make his debut if he does sign, but yeah, I think we'll definitely win this one.
And Matt, just on that point there from the two, João Carvalho, I believe, could start against Barnsley. He's got to start, in my opinion, to see where he's now full 90 minutes. It could be the ideal opportunity. What do you reckon?
Well, it's a jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? If we get Max Lowe back, it's not just about Lowe, but we'll be a 50% better team immediately because you'll get Colback back in the midfield. Hopefully, you'll have Yates fit. Then you could play a Carvalho and see how he gets on. But it will give all those forwards a chance to perform like they can do. Get an early goal, yeah, we score 3. You know, it's not hard to imagine. So, but I think, yeah, we need the left back situation sorted out. That half sorts out the midfield, and then hopefully the forwards can build on that because we'll be a better team going forward as well. Because you know, Colback does a decent job at left back, but he's not the same threat as our proper first choices.
Yeah, and there's just another point there, just on the same thing. And I think I'm of the same mindset now because I'm sick of talking about Carvalho and chances, and I don't believe he's ultimately good enough. But for people like Lee, you know, give him 90 minutes, give him a go, you know.
But he needs 90 minutes, game after game after game. You can't write him off after 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
No,
if
he
hasn't
needs
had 90 minutes.
Yeah, but he needs to perform as well. He needs to do what he did yesterday. He needs to play with that tempo.
In the 10-15 minutes that he had, no one else had done anything.
I don't think he played desperately well. He hasn't played well since the beginning of the lockdown. He's only had about, I don't know, less than a game if you put all the minutes together. And he's done a few things. But I think he's still a lot better than that. I think if you gave him 4, you know, and I'm not saying you can, but if you gave him 4 or 5 games, he'd become an influential player. But coming in the middle of a crazy formation where you've got all kinds of players playing that shouldn't be playing, it's hard. It's hard for all of them. That's the problem. It's hard for all of them. You have a strong team with your fullbacks right, your midfield right, and then you put Carvalho in there as well. Maybe then he stands a chance to perform. I think he's got something no one else has got. You know, if he had all the games that, you know, Zink and Brennan and, you know, even Mighton and so forth have played, he would have achieved more, in my opinion. But he hasn't had the chance. And people say he's a bad player because he hasn't. The same with kind of like Lolly. It's a shame Lolly hasn't been fit because we could have used him now. When he was fit and it was a debate, is he in the team, is he out of the team? He was getting left out on preference. And now he'd be getting a decent run of games, wouldn't he? But that's it. That's football, isn't it? It's luck. A lot of it's luck.
All we want from Carvalho is to see what he did in that Middlesbrough game. We want to see it.
Unbelievable.
We want to see it 1 in 3-4 games because ultimately, as much as everybody thinks Carvalho is going to come on and run the show, or Lolly, or whoever, at the Championship level, players only win you a game 1 in 4, 1 in 5.
Of course they do. Even Lolly in his peak Lolly season, he was brilliant. He was the best player of the league, wasn't he? But you don't do it every week. You know, it just doesn't happen. You've got to have some semblance of reality about it.
I think it's the rest of the team have
Carvalho
to take the burden as well, don't they? You can't just it goes wrong. Oh, it's all Carvalho's fault. You know what I mean? Like they're a team. It's not just one player. They've all got to put the shift in. They've all got to try. Well, most of them have got to try and create. Got to try and pick the right pass, make the right decision. You can't always, you know, blame Carvalho. But for me, he needs a free role at number 10. He does. That's what he needs. Absolutely. Like last night, he was wandering around a bit, which was great because he was coming out wide, then he was coming in, and that you saw a bit more of what Carvalho was about.
He needs a good talking to as well, though. I think really, I think the whole thing has drifted, and he's been told by different managers, "Oh, you're important to me," but he hasn't been treated like he's important.
No,
he needs to feel trusted, important. Not because he's a little brat, but just because, you know, he just needs to believe in himself. He's a confidence player, and Cooper's got a option there, and he's got an opportunity with Carvalho, and he could make something out of it. And if he doesn't now, well, he never will do, will he? So, you know, things are stretched at the moment. It's a shame maybe the last couple of games something couldn't have happened, but it hasn't quite. But yeah, it would be a real bonus if we could get something out of it.
Well, I think the thing is with Carvalho, just to finish off on this point, we all want him to be a major success. You know, every single Forest fan wants him to be a real success, but we just like with any player, you know, you give them so many chances, you just end up losing your patience a little bit and saying, enough's enough. It'd be great, you know, whether it's through adversity or slightly better players around him, he gets a chance, you know, and he really sort of has a strong second half of the season. If he doesn't, I probably feel like it really is time to go. But sort of, thanks for everyone for coming on. You know, you've made it a pleasure filling Dore's boots. Please shout up if you don't want him to come back. just kidding. Yeah, like I say, what I will say, just to plug a few of the guys, if you've got any spare pennies lying around, Matthew will be more than pleased if you visit his channel. Give it a shout out.
Yeah. Well, I do Rogues Gallery for my sins, so yeah, that's we've got a few things coming for next year, but Christmas is over. I'm putting my feet up for a little bit now. And charging the old batteries.
Dore's told me I've got to mention that if you have got a few pennies, you can always become a member of DoreOnTour, where you get the exclusive benefits of the same as everybody else. But I'm a member, and the reason I am, not just to get myself in the hot seat, is because I watch it every time. So I get a bit of value out of it, a couple of quid a month. I think Kieran is as well, aren't you, Kieran? Andy's got that Rogues Gallery sort of thing behind him.
He's got a custom one. Yeah.
So again, teamwork. Do you do something on TikTok, Kieran? That's all a bit below me, that one. I'm not.
Yeah. So it's just basically all Forest content, pretty much.
So check him out. What's your thing? What's your name?
Kids at Red Talk.
Oh, okay. That explains it then.
That's for the kids.
Check Megaphone Man out on Twitter. He's always full of beans. So thanks, guys, for coming on. Really appreciate it. Great chat there. You know, we're all happy, I think, still. You know, the gloss hasn't been taken off too much. Looking forward to the new year. From Mr. Dore himself, I'm sure he'd want me to say this. Happy New Year to all the viewers. Please subscribe. Keep commenting. You know, keep watching. Keep following his vlogs. He put one out yesterday. I know he was up till about 1:30 making it so he could get it out. He puts a lot of work into this, and I really appreciate it, if anything. So thanks for the opportunity. Happy New Year, and up the Forest.
US.
There's guys.